Welcome to another episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. We have a special guest today, Dr. David Chao, longtime NFL head team doctor and now an injury specialist across several professional sports. He provides live updates on injuries during these NFL Sundays, an essential part of how to get information for your fantasy team and also cheering on your favorite players and teams. So we're going to dive into some of the top injuries around the league. We'll talk Giants, we'll talk Chargers. We'll talk San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, and more to get our finger on the pulse of what to expect from your top favorite players who are battling injuries. When are they going to return? And what exactly are they dealing with going inside the mind of someone who has been on the field and on the sideline making these key decisions for players and teams? Remember, we are sponsored here on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard by MyBookie. And this information from Dr. Chao is going to help inform the bets that you make on overs, unders, favorites, underdogs, whatever you like to play, prop bets for MyBookie. And its 10th year anniversary, it is rolling out the red carpet for bettors. Starts with risk-free Thursdays and goes from there. Has a new loyalty rewards program, MyBookie Plus. And we have a special promo code here for you on Talkin' Ball. Click on the link in any of my social media profiles and bios and use the promo code PATSPICKS. And you will get a 100% match of your first deposit of a minimum $50 all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Make your football season a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you here by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink and Natural Extract, loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen right here, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And also brought to you here on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And now to our interview with Dr. David Chao, the pro football doc himself. All right, a very special guest today on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. It is Dr. David Chao. You know him and follow him as pro football doc. 17 plus years as a head NFL team doctor. Also has a website. You have to check it out. You have to subscribe over there. Sports Injury Central. He provides live injury analysis for several pro sports leagues and is the official injury expert at SiriusXM and also Fox Sports Radio. Dr. Chao, thanks so much for being here on Talking Ball.
Oh, thank you so much. And most importantly, a friend of Pat Leonard, known you for a little while. So thanks for having me on.
Right. Yeah. Friend of the show, friend of the program, friend of the Daily News. I wanted to start by asking you, before we get into some player injuries, I'm really intrigued by this SIC Picks subscription service you have. It's basically all of your injury data, it seems like, kind of compiled with NFL information to provide like fantasy football players with an edge if it's injury news or cheat sheets. Seems really interesting to me. Like as a fantasy footballer myself, I would subscribe to this.
Well, there's a couple different levels of it. And really the premise is you are a great injury report. You report on injuries. We don't actually report on injuries. We analyze injuries. Big difference. For example, in the Monday night game, right tackle for the who tore his patella tendon for the Bengals, Trent Brown. By video, it looked like a clear right patella tendon tear, but that's not reporting. That's analysis. You guys then confirm the report. So what's unique about it is we analyze situations as opposed to going by reports. And the reports are largely from coaches, the team, or agents. And we all know coach speak exists. And I'm sure you'll bring up examples even with the Giants and otherwise. And to be clear, I'm not hating, and at Sports Injury Central, sicscore.com, we're not hating on any coaches that may do coach speak. It's part of the job. Look, when I was involved in the NFL with the Chargers, I didn't have any coach speak because I didn't speak to the media, but there was some involvement behind the scenes in coach speak. So what we try and do is share insider knowledge of how the league works and medical works, not insider information. Now, as far as fantasy and gambling goes, look, I'm not a fantasy expert. Mm-hmm. Who to draft, this, that, the other. I don't study. I play in a couple of fantasy leagues. Scott Fishbowl, honored to play in that. But I'm not a fantasy expert. I'm an injury expert. So don't ask me the strategy here or the other. But I can say this running back is not 100%, or this running back is going up against a defense that's not 100%. This running back has an offensive line that's injured, and you as a casual fantasy player might not know that. So if you're deciding between two wide receivers or two running backs or two quarterbacks, maybe you want to know the health of the offensive line. And so we actually have a fantasy calculator where we say projected points and, FanDuel or DraftKings salary, and then we throw in the injury side, the health of the defense, the offensive line, the associated players, and they give a modified projection number. And then we do 6 scores for every individual player, but teams, not only teams, but the offense of the Giants, the run offense of the Giants versus the run defense of the Giants or the opponent, right? Or the pass offense. And we actually have Norv Turner, who's an investor and helps us calculate some of the formulas of how much the right guard means. And then
that's really interesting.
do it wins against replacement. For example, we don't penalize the Steelers as heavily for having, quote, Justin Fields as the backup QB2 as we do the Miami Dolphins with their backup. And we may get to that. There might be on QB4, but that's a whole different story there. So that's kind of what we do. And for people who just want the picks, we're honored that Billy Walters has cited us and sort of endorsed us. But people who want just the picks, sign up for the picks. And we've hit over 55% over 4 years kind of thing. It's never, you can't ever be for sure, right? But if we're using the injury algorithm, and then there's the data side where you can look at fantasy and what have you. But really what it's down to is for example, last week, the algorithm, we did not pick, even though Seattle was significantly healthier than the Dolphins. And we should have taken Seattle. They crushed, right? Yeah. We didn't, because that's a known injury based at quarterback where the line has already moved. Now, Monday Night Football, we were strong on Washington, not because we thought Jaden Daniels would have a, tremendous game. We're not going to, get over our skis there, but because the Bengals were injured on defense, especially along their defensive line, and whether they can get their run game going or whether they have to stack the box to stop the run game, that opens up a lot of other things. Now, we didn't take money line Washington Commanders. We were advising take the 7.5 and 7 points there. So that's an unseen injury. So that's what we go off of, the line arbitrage of unseen injuries. And over time, I think it's something that not everyone considers.
No, it's so valuable and unique. And I'm going to have to compare my Pats picks that I do with my bookie, our sponsor here, with the SIC picks, because you're rolling so far. It looks like I got to catch up. But my best bet this week, Dr. Chao, is based in part on the information I've seen you put out about this player. And it is right now the Chiefs at my bookie are -8 against the Chargers. And I love the Chiefs really at no matter what number, because I've heard you say you don't think Justin Herbert is going to play in this game. But I wanted to ask you too, not just about this game, but also long-term for him. This is a guy who was diagnosed with a plantar fascia injury in his right foot in early August during training camp. Now he has a high ankle sprain to his right ankle. I want to know from your vantage point, what do you see for both his outlook for this week and long-term as the Chargers quarterback?
Yeah, to make it clear for your audience, look, I used to work with the Chargers when they were in San Diego. I know the staff on the Chargers. The head athletic trainer is excellent. We're social friends. But I promise you, I have not called him to ask for information, and he would not tell me because of HIPAA. Okay? So
Right.
we work on insider knowledge, not insider information. I like to speak in good news. The good news for Justin Herbert is the high ankle sprain really doesn't have anything to do with the plantar fasciitis. It's the same foot. Maybe he was a quarter step slow and got the high ankle. Okay, you can postulate on that, but directly they're different parts of the foot and ankle. Number one. Number two is this now potential period of rest on the high ankle can only help any residual effect of the plantar fasciitis. So I always like to talk in the positive. Let me give you a snippet into my mind. Last week, we were very solid saying Justin Herbert will play, even though he has a high ankle. And everyone's like, high ankle, you can't play through a high ankle. And we cited examples in Patrick Mahomes 2 years ago, Jacksonville high ankle, finished the game, won the Super Bowl against the Eagles on a mild high ankle sprain. Different player, different situation. But meanwhile, look, not all high ankles are the same, and not all players are the same in terms of positions or otherwise. We were very confident that Justin Herbert would play in the game against the Steelers. Once he left and we looked at it, and once we took Jim Harbaugh's comments, who I love. I mean, I know Jim Harbaugh really well, and I could go on for an hour about Jim Harbaugh stories. The quirkiness, the realness, the authenticity. Love Jim Harbaugh. But he said it. Once Justin Herbert was limping, I decided we need to pull him. That was our deal. He didn't get hurt worse. It just, started to get more sore. And he put in who? Taylor Heineke, not Easton Stick, even though Heineke got there only a few weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And finished the game. So going forward, this is like the conversation that they might have in the building. And like I said, I've not talked to anyone in the building, and they wouldn't tell me, okay? But you understand, first of all, the Chargers they may lose 5 first-round draft picks from the Steelers game, which is unprecedented. Which team actually still has 5 first-round draft picks, right?
Wow.
So first one is Derwin James. I mean, suspension. He's out for a game, okay?
Yeah.
That I'm playing wordsmithing a little bit. Joey Bosa, back, now hip, may not play. Joe Alt, right tackle, isn't going to play with his MCL. Rashawn Slater is likely not to play with his pec. It's very hard to play offensive line with a pec. And now I'm saying Justin Herbert is not likely to play. So, Pat, before you say, wait a minute, you just said it didn't get any worse. And last week you said he's playing. Now, why is he not playing? Because this is how teams and coaches think. First of all, is there any way Justin Herbert will be 100% this week against the Chiefs? 0.
No. Yeah.
And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Not that Justin Herbert is fooling anybody, but they tried to play him and he didn't finish the game. So are you better off just starting the game with Taylor Heineke in a run-first offense that the Chargers have with Jim Harbaugh with both your tackles down? Do you really want to put Justin Herbert out there with both your tackles down? And guess what? I get it. It's the Chiefs. You want to win this game. You win this game, you actually vault into first place. You're 2-1. The Chiefs are 3-0. Head-to-head is first. But it's still early. They're going to play the long game. And next week is the bye. By resting Justin Herbert and taking the bye, he will be close to 100% and be the starter in week 6. But with the experience of Taylor Heineke, I believe Jim will trust him and give him the start. To be fair, I am positive they've had these conversations in the building just because they're a quality staff and a quality team. They haven't told me. But I'm also positive they probably haven't made the final decision yet, right? They're going to still look at how Justin Herbert goes and whatever. But looking ahead in the crystal ball, I think the Chargers are going to miss 5 first-round draft picks, including Justin Herbert this week. If it were the playoffs, a different story, maybe, but they got a bye. I get it's the Chiefs, but this hopefully is a good thing for your listeners to see how we're different. Look, we think we've spawned a whole industry of fantasy doctors and doctors on Twitter and, therapists. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Look, if Tesla was the only electric vehicle on the marketplace, that means the electric vehicle marketplace doesn't work, right? Every car company has one, and that's okay. You just have to concentrate on being the best. And we have an unfair advantage of having worked on the other side, not only treated these athletes, done these surgeries, but also participated in the decision-making of return to play. So that sort of gives us the unfair advantage of looking at some of these things. And yes, it's not reporting fact that Taylor Heinicke's a starter. It's our analysis that he will be.
Yeah, as they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So kudos to you.
Yeah, and we welcome anyone, it's all good.
Yeah, and then that 5 first-round pick stat is a great stat. I think that's a really good point and great analysis there of that whole situation. My 2 cents, too, would be, and I know you like to speak in the positives, but Easton Stick's lack of performance really helped get the last coach fired. So I do also think it's just incumbent on Jim Harbaugh maybe to just try something else because he's seen the tape.
Well, to be fair, everyone loves Easton Stick. I don't know him personally. When he got the chance to start last year, Philip Rivers was the first one to text me, "We're excited. My guy Stick is going to play," kind of thing. So, he's a well-liked guy. I can't speak to his ability but part of it is, how this works, Pat, too. Easton Stick, no offense to him, was an inherited guy for Jim Harbaugh, right? Taylor Heinicke is a brought-in guy for Jim Harbaugh. And we all know the differences that potentially can make, differences of opinions and ability and otherwise.
No doubt. All right. So staying on the West Coast, this has been a big one since the start of the season, right off the jump. Christian McCaffrey with this Achilles tendonitis, now apparently flying to Germany to get seen by a specialist. He's on injured reserve already. But I got to be honest, Dr. Chao, I don't know exactly what Achilles tendonitis means for the long term, but I know it doesn't sound good to me, the layperson with no medical degree. So could you just kind of clarify or contextualize what this means for McCaffrey?
Well, first of all, let me tell you a funny story. In my one draft for fantasy that I do, Scott Fishbowl 14, I had the 3rd pick in the draft. And I don't plan strategy, but basically it was obvious to me that Christian McCaffrey fell to me, and I didn't have a problem taking him. And so I am one who wants him back as soon as possible. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, I saw the speculation. Poor guy, he got spotted in airport flying to Germany or whatever it was. Look, the initial Twitter is funny. No, he's not going to Oktoberfest. And I don't know if you've ever been to Oktoberfest, Pat, but Oktoberfest is held in September. It's a celebration of October. It's not actually in October. So he is there, if he's still there, for Oktoberfest. And who would blame him if he raised a stein or two? Exactly. But the bottom line is, why is he going there? It's not so much that there is an Achilles specialist there that's so special. He's going there, once again, this is putting pieces together. I have not talked to CMC or his agent, okay? I've not talked to Ed, his dad, who I'm very glad to meet at the Super Bowl.
Easy Ed.
Ed's great, but, lots of Ed stories too. And the other McCaffrey ain't too bad either. He got a touchdown, right?
Yeah, Luke, yeah.
But anyways, why Germany? In the United States, there are certain treatments that are legal and illegal per the FDA. You hear about players over the summer and spring going to South America or Costa Rica for stem cell treatments. Some of those stem cell treatments are not legal in the United States. The United States has a fairly strict policy. Some stem cells are. Platelet-rich plasma is legal in the United States. I do it all the time. But there's a special modification to the blood that is allowed in other countries like Germany. And Germany is not the only place that allows it. That's not allowed in the US. Athletes like Kobe have flown to Germany because Germany as a country kind of pioneered some of that. And so other countries, yes, you could get it, he could have gone to Tijuana across the border and gotten the same treatment, but he's choosing to fly there because that's where more of the expertise is. It's not so much an Achilles expertise, but doing this modified growth factor platelet-rich plasma treatment like Kobe got back in the day. And you have to give CMC credit for wanting to do this. I would assume that he's doing this on his own, not against team advice, but on his own and on his own dime, probably. Certainly he's taking his own time to fly there. He didn't fly on an owner's plane to Germany. I mean, he flew commercial. That's where he was spotted, right? So you got to give him credit that he's trying to do the best to get better himself. And I don't see a team paying for a treatment that isn't legal in the U.S. It's just, an interesting conundrum, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's just the rules of that we have, and I'm not commenting on the rules. I'm just saying this is why he's there. Now, the bad news. Well, how did we get here? First of all, when I drafted him, I wasn't worried about the calf. I thought the calf had plenty of time to get better. He had a calf injury last year and played through. But week 1, it showed up as calf and Achilles. This travel is the Achilles tendonitis, not the calf. The calf, you can make worse, it can linger. But the Achilles tendon gives you a higher chance of rupture. And if you get an Achilles tendon rupture, it is surgery and season. Now, I'm not saying if CMC played with it, he'd have a 50-50 chance of rupturing his Achilles. I'm not saying that. Look, if your normal chance of rupture of Achilles is, and I'm making up the number here, is low, like 0.01% per every time you take the field. If his chance is now 1% every time he takes the field, it's 100-fold increase. And if you're the 49ers brass, you're trying to win the Super Bowl and play the long game. You're trying to make sure you got CMC for December and January and February. You're okay missing him, especially with Jordan Mason in September. But here's what this means. I've been hinting at it all along with Achilles tendonitis. It's not necessarily magically healed in 4 weeks. And now with this injection, he's trying to increase the speed of healing. But once you get this injection, the typical is it takes 4 to 6 weeks to turn the corner. So if he's 2 weeks in and now you're 4 to 6 weeks, he's not returning as soon as he's eligible off IR. And that's not a bad thing. They want to be safe. But I'm just telling fans and fantasy, look, in the Scott Fish Bowl, there are no trades. Otherwise, I might have tried to trade CMC to somebody who didn't realize how long-term this might be. But there's no trade in my fantasy league, so they don't allow trades.
Well, that's great. That's a great explanation, though, because what you're saying is for the long term, like for a Super Bowl contender, if this procedure that he's getting to the treatment to his blood, if it is effective for what he's looking to have it do for him, for that Achilles, you're looking at, yes, a longer timeline than ideal to have him back on the field, but there's a chance that by midseason or late season that this type of treatment he's getting, or this is what he's looking for at least, is that it could have him ready.
If he came back at for the 49ers, if he came back at week 9, I would take it. Well, I'd take it for my fantasy team. Look, I love John Lynch. He's a very smart guy, but John Lynch, you're killing me. IR in fantasy. Lynch, San Diego guy. He's around town. I mean, love John Lynch. But they're making the right decision there. And look, so the target now for CMC is no longer October. It's hopefully November sometime, but certainly December.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good insight. Fantasy players, especially, listen up.
So if you can trade him now.
Yeah, trade him now. Yeah, or you'll get to unleash him. In the playoffs of your fantasy.
If you league it there.
Yeah, right. Find some waiver claims first. Moving to really the highest profile one, most serious one so far this year. Tua Tagovailoa, the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Curious, Dr. Chao. I know concussions everyone is different. And I know that if you're not treating a patient directly in something like this, it is hard to say, but I would say the average person looks at how many he's had, how serious and scary they've looked on the field. And of course, I'm sure you saw the initial conversation was this guy should never play football again, right? For the average person sitting on their couch, or even somebody like me who is just knows a lot of football players, knows what these head injuries and concussions do to you. And frankly, from my vantage point, Roger Goodell in the NFL can't love the image of Tua Tagovailoa fencing on the field at least once per season. But my question
I
to you
agree.
is, as a former longtime team doctor, would you advise a player? Would you ever advise a player like Tua? I'm not saying you're advising Tua right now, but I'm saying, would you ever advise a player in this type of situation, like, you should not play football anymore? Or like right now we hear about him seeing outside neurologists, he's traveling with the team, the arrow's pointing up. Where do you land on kind of like how you would handle that from a team doctor perspective?
Well, first of all, to answer the question, this is saying I'm sure you've heard it in the NFL: never too high, never too low, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so is he immediately done and should retire? Maybe not, but is it just go back and play? Yeah, not, right? I mean, you got to let it all sort out a little bit. And for clarity here, for your followers, and I hope I'm not too long winded here, I'm an orthopedic surgeon and head team physician. So, what the heck is an orthopedic surgeon doing, even commenting on head injuries? I'll tell you, because I was a head team physician and the whole concussion thing came up when I was a head team physician. I went to the meetings that the NFL had mandatory. I was the team's representative with the head athletic trainer, the meetings in Washington with the military, the meetings at the combine. So I was sort of the head coach of medical. I may have not called the special teams coverage or play, but I'm in charge of it. And so therefore, I never actually examined a player for head injury in the NFL. I observed exams and they reported to me and I interpreted. So I know all about the process and so forth, but that's the disclosure. No, I'm not a neurologist. Okay. But here's what I would say for fans and the general public. Number one, first of all, concussions are a big deal to me. I was there back in the day when Stan Humphries took his final play in the NFL in Cincinnati. I was an assistant at the time and I was there. Okay. I've had 5 friends, not all football players, 5 professional athlete friends in different disciplines take their own life. And yes, CTE has been involved in a good number of them. So I take this very near and dear to my heart. First statement I would get out there: if Tua or asked me, what's the best thing to do for my head and brain, short and long term? Quit playing the collision sport of football. Period. End of story. However, you could also say that for his 52 teammates. If they ask the question, I've never had a concussion, but what's best for me in my head in the long term, subconcussive blows, quit playing the collision sport of football. Now, I'm not trying to be curt with that. I've been asked many times by NFL players, Doc, what's the best thing to do for my knee? Lose 100 pounds and quit playing football? Oh, no, I'm not doing that. And so what are you going to do? And what's the next thing, et cetera?
Yeah.
So there's that. But to go to the next level, what worries people is what? The number of concussions, probably 5 in the last 5 years, 4 documented in 2022, 2 documented, most say 3, whatever the controversy, 5 in 5 years. And the other one is the posturing. So 5 in 5 years, I get it. It's a concern. But Mitch Morris, center for the Bills and now Jaguars, has had 6 documented concussions in his NFL career. Pat Freiermuth, who took the hit from Derwin James that got him suspended for a game, has had 3 in his short career. 1 concussion can be too many, and there's no question a 5th concussion is career threatening. Is it absolutely career ending? It depends. Let me say something else. The posturing that we see looks bad, is incredibly scary, but does not indicate permanent damage to his brain and is not necessarily directly linked to CTE. Every hit, every subconcussive hit can potentially increase your chance of CTE. So I'm not denying that, But you can't say this guy fenced and he should never play again. This guy didn't fence and he should play again. It's not that simple. It's all about symptoms and how quickly you recover. No two concussions are the same. Good early signs for Tua. He was allowed to get with the team early. He was allowed to fly with the team. As you know, Pat, a lot of teams don't allow injured reserve players to fly, and they're certainly to travel. It's an individual team policy. He's the quarterback. He wanted to be there, so they brought him to Seattle. But they're not letting someone fly who hasn't fully recovered, at least mental wits about him and thinking clearly and no symptoms. And he's also not setting up neurology visits if he has symptoms. You know this, Pat, with the Giants. Nobody sends a player over to the independent neuro on Wednesday to get cleared. You send them over when you're sure and they have no symptoms. Because if they have symptoms at all, they're not getting cleared, right?
Yeah, right.
And so same with this neuro here. So the fact that he traveled to Seattle.
Great point there, doctor, by the way. Great point. You're not sending them there.
These visits indicates that he probably is symptom-free. Thank God. Now, what are the neurologists going to say? I don't know. They're going to do a full evaluation. He's going to see multiple because there's no way the league or the Dolphins are going to let him back in. Now, part of what we do at Sports Injury Central, we've already said going into this year and last year, we downgraded Tua as a fantasy pick. Now, last year, you'd hate us because he did very well. But why did we downgrade him? Yeah, he did jiu-jitsu training. That's all good. But, you can't prevent concussions like that. And he did not get one last year. But we knew very well last year and this year and going forward in his career, the next concussion is not a 1-week absence. Most concussions in the NFL, if it's your first, it's almost 50-50, depending on when you clear symptoms that you can play the next week. Tua's next concussion, his now fifth or fourth, however you count it, was not going to be 1 week. Especially when he's a quarterback, especially when he's fencing, especially that the quick rule out, it was going to always be minimum 1 month. So that's why we sort of always downgraded Tua's availability going forward because of this history. Now, if he returns to play and plays next year, the rest of this year with no problems, plays next year with no problems, and 2026 gets a concussion, he's once again out a month or 6 weeks or the rest of the season or whatever. People are trying to be careful for him. He's indicated he wants to return to play. I hope that he is given the option to return to play, and that would mean he's got a, quote, pseudo clean bill of health. Of course, he's got all the history still. And then you can get into should you play and generational money and what's right and whatever. But I really hope that he's allowed to return to play. I'm not lobbying for him to return to play, right? I'm just saying I hope he's allowed to. And that's the same thing I said about Damar Hamlin. We expect Damar Hamlin to be allowed to return to play football after his catastrophic event. And whether he does or not was his choice. And obviously he got a big pick this week, his first one, and second year back, the whole deal. But he was given the choice. I'm for giving that Tua hopefully will have the choice. What choice? Meaning his brain is, quote, healthy enough to pass multiple neurologist recommendations. But hopefully I'm not too long-winded on that. That's a complicated discussion and one that I've had with teams, with players and so forth.
No, that's a fascinating breakdown, and it's a complicated topic. It deserves an in-depth answer. And yeah, it's so interesting to me, Dr. Chao, how, one of the moments that sticks out so far in the NFL season, which is not something the league or football wants, is Tua Tagovailoa lowering his head. And this is a guy whose career is being threatened by concussions, lowering his head into a player who died on the field and was resuscitated and saved and is now playing for one of the better teams in the NFL. It's like great. It's a tremendous story.
And Damar Hamlin, when that happened, I was in such shock. I was like, I don't want to be an ambulance chaser. I don't even want to talk about this issue. And I was emotional. But then I talked to my staff and I said, if I don't speak on this now, then who will? And so we said that night, I mean, if you go back and find the X Live thing, I mean, I was on the verge of tears, just emotional. I didn't know Damar Hamlin, but I've known kids like him. And look, my number one takeaway that day immediately was, I hope to God that they resume this game. And let me finish. Because I don't see how they can resume that game without knowing in the background that kid was going to be okay.
Right.
You
If they
can't
resumed
unsee
it,
CPR.
it would indicate they knew he was
You
okay.
can't unsee CPR. Someone pumping on your friend's chest, your teammate's chest. You can't unsee that. And that's why it made sense the game was canceled, because they didn't know at the time. But that's why I hope the game, and then I talked about the medical process. So it was interesting there. But in Tua's defense, for all the times that we hate on players, you didn't take a hit, you didn't go for it. Look, there's no magic yellow line on the field. That was in the middle of the field. There was no 5 or 10 yard marker. And the second you start to slide, you're marked down. If he started to slide before the contact, he might have been a quarter yard short of the first down. And he's not looking over at the side to know. And he's not trying to take the hit. I mean, in retrospect, maybe he should have gone as a little diagonal and still gotten the first down and slid. And, who knows? But the bottom line is, it's the game of football. And to say, Tua, you're being silly, you didn't slide. He's trying to win for his team. It was a red zone situation this close to a first down. Yes, in retrospect, because he went forward, he got it by 2 yards. But we all know if you slide, you probably cost yourself 2 yards.
That's
right?
true. As Bill Belichick came in,
how do you know where that exact line is as you're running for your life, kind of thing?
As Bill Belichick famously said, when Rob Gronkowski, I believe, broke his arm or his wrist blocking on a field goal or extra point, he was criticized for using him there. And Belichick said, well, you let me know next time you know which play he's going to get hurt on, and I'll make sure he's not on the field, right? It's kind of like,
being on the, and since we talked some fantasy and different things, I'll give you another one for your fantasy team. If you need a quarterback, snag Snoop Huntley. Snoop Huntley will be the starter for the Dolphins this week against the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that as a fact. We all know it's not Tua Tagovailoa.
Right.
Okay. Could it be Skylar Thompson? Yes, but here's why it won't. He has chest and rib issues. Let's say he has a broken rib.
Yeah.
If this is Josh Allen, he cannot practice all week, take a game day injection and play. Justin Herbert's done that before because it's Justin Herbert to Easton Stick. This is Skylar Thompson, who didn't perform that well. They're not going to put him on the field as a starting quarterback without a week of practice.
Right.
And he's not going to practice this week. So then where does it fall to? Tim Boyle or Snoop Huntley? Well, Snoop Huntley, who with a good run game, Miami, the whole deal, and dynamic, the trickle has been out. We started saying this on Monday on our podcast. There's been some trickle that it's possible. This is one, if we could do sick picks and bet who the starting quarterback is, I would parlay Heineke to Huntley and probably get good odds on it. But of course, there's no such thing, right? Fantasy, get Snoop Huntley if you don't have him. Now, I haven't even looked on my league if I can pick him up or he's available. That's how much I'm a fantasy expert or player, not very much one. But I can tell everyone what to do.
Well, speaking of parlays, I want to tell everybody about our sponsors, and then we will get to some Giants talk and a couple more questions before we get you out of here, Dr. Chao. I know your time is very valuable. We are sponsored here by MyBookie. It's their 10th year anniversary, and MyBookie is rolling out the red carpet for bettors. Starts with risk-free Thursdays. So go on and bet Giants, Cowboys, a lot of fun props to bet and fun games to play with MyBookie. They have a loyalty rewards program, MyBookie Plus. You can also use the promo code for Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. It is Pat's Picks. Go to the link in any of my profiles or bios. Click on the link. Make your first deposit $50 or more up to $1,000. You will get a 100% match on that deposit plus a $10 casino chip with the Pat's Picks promo code. So do that today. Make your football season a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. It is a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. Use the discount code TalkingBall25 or the QR code on your screen, and you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. So flipping over to the Giants, Dr. Chao, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Graham Gano, of course, was the big injury that stood out in week 2 at Washington. But first, I want to ask you, and a fan asked me this on a recent live chat. We do a Talking Ball live chat where the fans ask me questions directly. And they wanted to know what I saw from Daniel Jones's surgically repaired knee. And so I put it to you. After 3 weeks, how does Daniel look? Does he look 100% to you? What do you think?
Well, I'll put it to you. You watch every Giants game and you break down film for Giants games. I'm in the war room when it's a 10-3 split for early and late games. The Giants are 1 of 10 games. So I, excuse me, I do see it, but I'm seeing piecemeal. What we said for Daniel Jones at the beginning of the season, you tell me how good we look so far or how off we are, because you see him a lot and you know what he's like. We gave him a higher season-long 6 score than we did Kyler Murray coming back from ACL last year, because they're different quarterbacks. And we felt like Daniel Jones would do better than Kyler Murray did last year. Well, he already has, because he started the season, right? Kyler Murray did not start the season last year for the Cardinals. And we said, we're actually not that down on his running ability. Is he 100% yet? I don't know that he is, but he's a straight line runner. He's a giraffe. He doesn't have a lot of wiggle. He's not Kyler Murray when he runs. And I would imagine that his straight line running is one of the first things that comes back from the ACL. One of the last things is really cutting and being dynamic. But I don't see Daniel Jones as that. So he's got plenty of strength in the pocket, plenty of ability in the pocket, and he can run in a straight line. Now, he still probably has problems slowing down. Instead of stopping in 2 steps, he probably takes 15 to slow down. So his knee's not 100%. But I would imagine his knee bothers him less than other quarterbacks, and he's okay, although he's not 100% from the knee. How does he look to you, mobility-wise and otherwise?
Yeah, I think your offseason analysis, I think that was in August, maybe we spoke. I think it was right on the money. In fact, when the fan asked me the other day, coming off the Browns win, the knee wasn't even something I was thinking about until I was asked about it. So that should tell you how Daniel looks. I mean, Daboll was using him on designed quarterback runs on the first game of the season. So not only, like you said, did he play and start that first game of the season off the knee, they were using designed quarterback runs. You're right. Most of them straight line runs. That is typically how he runs anyway. But even in the Cleveland game just here, he was eluding pressure. He had one play in the first half where he eluded pressure. He drops back. Okay, so it's the right knee that was repaired. He drops back, plants, looks. He faces pressure from his right. He steps to his right, starts running left in the pocket, plants his left foot, pushes off back to his right, forward in the pocket, with a running throw out to the right sideline to Wan'Dale Robinson. So that was vertical. That was lateral. That was a quarterback who looked to me like he was not limited severely in any way. I think, like you said, it would be interesting to see if he's forced to make a hard lateral cut on a design run in space against some of these fast and big defenders, if there's any limitations there. But I have not noticed anything. So that should be encouraging for Giants fans.
Yeah. So far we're okay, but I'm not saying he's 100%, but I'm just saying he's the way he's style and the way he plays, it's going to affect him less than a Kyler Murray. And so far,
you were
and
right
not all ACLs are the same. There's associated damage in the whole thing. But
you were right on the money. And so, flipping from the positive to the critical here, how big of a mistake was it by the Giants to not have a backup plan to Graham Gano in that game, where they knew the Saturday before he had a groin injury, and then he pulls a hamstring on the opening kickoff? Do you think, because logically, there's a connection between a guy who's favoring his kicking leg and has a groin injury there, and then he injures his hamstring the first time he opens up and runs. Dable's comment was, I'm not a doctor, as if they were completely unrelated things. He said, well, it was his hamstring. It wasn't his groin, as if it just magically appeared. But I'm not a doctor either. So you tell me, how did you view that whole situation?
Wasn't in the room. And what I always say, if a team makes a decision that doesn't make sense to us on the outside, it probably made sense to them on the inside. We don't have all the factors. But I do think, and it's happened to me before, people have questioned what the Chargers did. Like, well, you guys don't know this big piece of information on the outside, and we couldn't tell you. And if you did know, you'd agree with what we did. But that's a whole other story. Right. So I'm not trying to be critical of the Giants, Brian Daboll. They've got a good medical staff. Ronnie Barnes, as you know, has been there forever. He's like a senior VP, and mad respect for him as he's not even the head athletic trainer anymore. He's the boss of the head athletic trainer. He's the boss. I mean, so mad respect for everyone there. However, the question of whether the hamstring was related to the groin or not, to me, is irrelevant. Now, do I think there could be a relationship? Yes, injuries beget injuries. It was the right groin. It's the right hamstring. Yeah, but who could predict that he'd have to try and run down Austin Eckler? Okay. I mean, right? I mean, come on. And now I don't know if that's
certainly plausible, Dr. Chao. Like, it's certainly plausible.
But and I didn't see that part of the game, and I didn't know about the report of the groin ahead of the game, so I wasn't watching. But was that opening kickoff into the end zone, or was it short?
Ooh, I think it was short.
And that would make sense with the groin. So even if the groin muscle and the hamstring muscle weren't related, the groin injury probably cost him some distance on the kickoff, leading to a return that caused the hamstring. So whether it's directly or indirectly, there may be some relationship. But here's why I said the first part. Once I found out it was a groin strain on the kicking leg, nobody kicks straight on anymore. Everyone sweeps, right? Soccer style. Groin is very important. When I was head team physician, we were always very worried about groin injuries, and especially on kickers, not only because it can affect them, but because at any moment on a kickoff. So let's say Graham Gano doesn't pull his hamstring. His next kickoff, do you think he's going to put in a little extra juice and make sure it goes into the end zone?
Yeah.
Maybe he pulls his groin then, or maybe it's on a 57-yard field goal. I don't know what his distance was. The problem is, medically, there's only one. It's not like if your running back goes out, you have RB2. There's only one.
Exactly.
And if you don't trust your punter to kick extra points after one miss, that means you don't have a plan B. So the criticism isn't, is it linked or not? You always have to be prepared for and that's where kickers are different than other players. You know, no one wants, it's bad enough, as you know, to lose someone in a game because, you know, roster spots are precious, right? And coaches hate that.
Yeah.
But you lose a kicker, there's not a second. And no one activates two kickers. Now, if your punter's really good at kicking, maybe you can do that. Maybe you just value Graham Gano's kicking ability and accuracy, and maybe your punter can kick off on the longer kicks or something. But let me tell you, if Graham Gano is 90% and healthy, and he's anywhere close, and the backup is anywhere close, you have to activate the practice squad guy because of that risk of injury, because there's only one. That's my only roster thing, what have you. And I don't know if the discussion was had, and I'm not trying to be critical. I don't know how bad the groin was. Maybe they were very confident it was nothing, and maybe it was unrelated directly. But even then, the theory is maybe if the kickoff is a few yards shorter, and then that invited the return, which invited the hamstring.
It was
the bottom line is it's risky to go into the game with one, especially with a kicking leg groin. That's all I can say. It's risky. Maybe their practice squad guy is no good and they couldn't use him. I know they brought in tryouts of new people, right? And so maybe there's like, we just can't play that guy, right?
It was kicked to the 2-yard line, by the way. It was short. And your analysis kind of reinforces the way I look at it too. Is yes, it's an injury question, but like what you're saying also is it's just as much a roster management question as far as just like you said, we don't have the exact information on what they had judged of the injury going in, but we can say how the critical nature of that position, given any sort of doubt at that position and the depth chart and lack of faith in his replacement, who's there as the punter on the roster. So it's a roster management call as well.
And I'll say this, like I said, from when I started, I wasn't critical. I'm just saying it's a fair question to ask. And this is because of my team physician experience in saying this. I mean, I would have been kicking myself literally if we didn't have that discussion. And maybe they had that discussion and said, no, we're going with Graham Gano. He feels fine. And maybe that has to do with, and I don't even know who the practice squad place kicker was, or, at the time. And I don't know what's happening.
Jude McTamney.
But the bottom line is it seemed like they didn't have enough confidence in him to just elevate him, right? They did tryouts. So maybe they said, we should elevate him, but Graham Gano is still better and we'll take the risk, right?
Right.
And maybe that's what Brian Daboll and the medical staff and the coaches all did, but he doesn't want to say that now publicly, right? So I'm not being critical of Daboll at all. I'm just saying, yes, these are things that should have been discussed, and maybe they were.
Yeah. No, great insight. One thing I wanted to point out about this week too, and you might have a different answer, so if you do, let me know. I was looking at, we talked about the Chargers earlier as a game that really is impacted heavily by injuries. I looked at the schedule. I feel like one that stands out to me is the Eagles-Bucks, where the Eagles have A.J. Brown with a hamstring, Devontae Smith and Lane Johnson with concussions. Seems like a game that on the surface, you look from the outside looking in, you say Eagles, pretty good team, but you zero in, you look at the injuries. Looks like that could be a huge factor in this game on the road. Do you agree with me that stands out to you? Is there another game that stands out to you more or just as much?
Well, the last week's injury bowl game was Rams and 49ers. This week's injury bowl game is 49ers and Patriots, right? Both sides have some injuries. But yes, we've talked about the Eagles wide receivers. I think it's unlikely that A.J. Brown will play. Remember, it's a late week hamstring. He's hadn't had a lot of time. And by the way, the Eagles have a bye, so they'd be smart to say, let's get you right. Devonta Smith concussion. Look, it looked like a bad hit, but you can't judge by the hit. Statistically, it's almost 50-50 that he could return to play, which would be good news, but we'll see. But he ain't practicing all week. So if you don't practice all week, how do you game plan with and make him the centerpiece when you don't even know if he's going to be there? And their number 4 receiver is just got put on IR.
Britton Covey, right? Yeah,
and Dotson, who they traded for, is there. And so it'll be interesting. Is this heavy Saquon Barkley game? Who knows?
Yeah, but this is 8 or 9 guys in the box from Todd Bowles, right? That's what this is.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Bowles will have something creative and special. But yeah, there are some issues there too. Look, at least the Packers. Who would have thought? Okay, Jordan Love. We haven't even covered him. Okay, think about this. Yeah. More improbable: Jordan Love returning to play Week 4, or the Packers undefeated in his absence.
The undefeated in his absence part. And it's not like I consider Jordan Love a top 5 quarterback or anything, but based on what Malik Willis was viewed as, right, when they traded for him from Tennessee, I don't think anybody could have predicted that.
And he just got there, cup of coffee there, right? And here you go. But I agree with you. That's the bigger surprise, because guess what? From the get-go, we were saying that's not a season-ending knee injury. That pop is not significant on Jordan Love. It's not IR. It's not surgery. And we were hopeful he could stay off of IR. And if you rewind the tape back a couple of weeks, I said the Packers are going to target Week 4. And here we are, Week 4. It's not official that he's playing, but I think everyone believes that he is, right?
Yeah,
and I think we believe he is. Last week, we did not believe that Jordan Love would play at all, even though there's LP and the status and questionable. But this week, we strongly believe he is. And thankfully, so is Sam Darnold. That knee issue for him was not so good. We want healthy people everywhere.
We do. We do. Last question from me is more of a general one, Dr. Chao, and it relates to, covering these games every week. Obviously, unfortunately, you see injuries every week in every game. And I wanted to know from your vantage point, how tough are those conversations of deciding whether a player is going back into a game or not? And mainly I ask that because I know there's a lot of players who they'll tell me, let's say after a game on Tuesday or Wednesday, they'll say, yeah, this happened and I probably shouldn't have gone back in, but I told him I was fine. Or, yeah, this happened, but I just played through it. We'll see where it goes. And so just wondering, like, there's got to be a lot from a doctor's perspective where at times you're relying on what the player is telling you, but then also
you
there's got to
are,
be
and quite honestly, for concussions, that's what you're relying on from the get-go, unless they have outward signs, right? I mean, if they don't tell you they saw spots, how are you supposed to know? Now, if they're off balance or a visual sign, okay, but yeah, and they don't tell you their knee hurts, how are you supposed to know? I wrote about this once. Drew Brees once shrugged off a shoulder injury and said, I'm fine. I'm not coming out of this game. Like, no, you're not fine, right? I mean, kind of thing. So, I mean, it happens all the time. But you as a doctor need to exercise caution. And if it's something that you can make more sore, you let the player decide. If it's something that you can permanently damage, you have to put your foot down. If it's something in between, there's judgment. And this is where, okay, here's my mini commercial. Okay. People have said, lay people, why is the team doctor hired by the team and report to the team? That is that's a biased approach against the players. Look, the team doctor cannot show up on game day and make decisions. Otherwise, you'll have what happened with the Seattle safety and the concussion guy early last year. I forget, he got Jamal Adams, right? Throwing his helmet mad at a guy because he didn't know this guy from Adam, kind of thing. You have to have relationships with players so that they develop trust in you, and B, you know where they come from and how they symptom amplify or hide or what have you. And you can't establish those relationships on the sidelines on game day. You have to establish them when they're drafted and at training camp and during the week. Just like you, when you need a big quote from a player, that can't be the first time you go to him.
No doubt.
Right? Same thing. You have to develop relationships. Same with the team doctors. So, yeah, team doctors can't be just dropped into a situation. That's not the way to go. And look, when you see your own doctor, don't you have more confidence when it's the same guy that you've seen for years, as opposed to a new guy that's substituting? You're like, yeah, not sure he knows me. So, yeah, it's a delicate situation, but a lot of it is based on relationships.
Great answer. Dr. Chao, it's been fantastic. Everybody, you know him. He is the Pro Football Doc. Follow him on X, Pro Football Doc. The website for Sports Injury Central is sicscore.com. Longtime NFL head team doctor, live injury analysis. You got to check into his account and to his website throughout NFL Sundays and all season long. I think we got you guys ready for week 4 here in the NFL. Hopefully going to scour the internet for that Snoop Huntley Taylor Heineke parlay and see if I can find it on my bookie somewhere, Dr. Chao. But thank you so much for this. This is really informative and insightful.
And I had a lot of fun. And I'm sorry for blowing up your clock. You probably canceled 3 other guests because I kept talking. So
no, well worth it, and overdue. But we'll do it again. And thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thanks, Pat.
That was an awesome interview and conversation with Dr. David Chao, the Pro Football Doc. Go find him on sicscore.com. We are proud to be sponsored here by MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors. They have risk-free Thursdays. You can kick off your week 4 with some bets on the Cowboys and Giants prime time matchup. Use the promo code PATSPICKS. Use the link in any of my social media profiles and bios. Click the link, and at the cashier, enter PATSPICKS promo code, and you will get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. If you're already a MyBookie member, they have a new loyalty rewards program called MyBookie Plus. Simple. The more you play, the more you earn. You progress through tiers, unlock exclusive promotions and epic giveaways, and get cash back in your account. MyBookie is here to help you cash in on every single moment this football season. Make it a winning season with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes 10 seconds to make an Estate 98 iced coffee. It's delicious, and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkingBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Thanks for watching on YouTube, PL on NFL on the YouTube channel. Thanks for listening on the Believe Network, on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. All the ratings, all the likes, all the follows, and all the subscriptions help us continue to grow this great community here on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. See you next time.